بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا ما بعد سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. So this is a presentation that I put together before, and is just some of the history of Ramadan. What is the objective of Ramadan? What are we supposed to achieve in Ramadan? So we will not be able to finish all of it tonight. So I'm hoping that today we will finish some things. We might finish some points, and then we'll leave the rest for Friday night, inshallah, and we will finish this presentation on Friday night. So we'll go to the very first thing, which is the history of Ramadan. As you know that So let's talk about the history of Ramadan. Where did Ramadan start from? How did it start? What was the history of fasting? So ayah number 184 is this is the ayah that comes after the ayah that we always hear in our khutabs, in our lectures. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykumus siyam kama kutiba alal ladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. Ayah number 184 is ayyaman ma'dudat. فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين. So let's go to the very first one. فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر. Now the people who were sick, the people who were the elderly and the traveler, they were exempt from fasting. Just like today we have in the Sharia of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all these three people are exempt from fasting. The next category was the category of the rich. The rich people who had money, they would be able to pay fidya, a certain amount of money, to the poor people, and they used to exempt themselves from fasting. Now this is once again before the Sharia of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The third category, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ فَمَنْ تَطَوَّعَ خَيْرًا فَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَهُ. The others, that means that if there was a poor person who did not have the money to pay a fidya, he is not considered as a sick person, a traveler, or considered as a sick person or a traveler, then they would have to fast. So this was the fasting before the Sharia of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. Then He says, فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصم ومن كان مريضا أو على سفر. If you're sick, you're elderly, or you're a traveler. Now once again, when I say elderly, that means that if they are incapable of fasting, then they are exempted from fasting. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, before this, He says, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Everyone else, whether you have money, whether you don't have money, you're not exempted from fasting. Everyone has to fast. So the very first stage was the elderly, the sick, and the traveler. They were exempt from fasting. The poor people will pay money. The poor people would fast, and the rich people, they will pay fidya. Phase number 2 was everyone has to fast except for the sick, the elderly, and the traveler. However, what happened was that during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was another rule in place, and that was that if you slept after Salat al-Isha, then your fasting would begin immediately. That means that, to help you understand, imagine if someone today slept at 12:30. If someone slept today at 12:30, after Salat Tarawih is over, then their fasting has begun from then. If they wake up in the middle of the night, before the time of Fajr, then they cannot eat and they cannot drink anything, and they cannot be intimate with their spouses. This was the ruling at that time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then came ayah number 187. Before that, this was, as you can see, fasting would begin if one slept after iftar. That means anytime after iftar, the restrictions of fasting would begin from night. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it easy for the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said that everything that is not allowed during fasting, it is allowed till the time of Fajr. That means that even if you sleep after iftar and you wake up during the night time, you can still continue to eat and drink. Now initially this was very difficult upon the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum, and people like Ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anh, he approached Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying that this was extremely difficult because the Sahaba, they would be exhausted from fasting during the daytime, and when they would sleep after iftar, their fasting would begin immediately. So in some cases, their fasting would be almost 24 hours. It would be approximately 22 hours or 23 hours because they would sleep after Isha. Now you have to also factor in that during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was no form of congregation when it came to Salat Tarawih. This form of congregation started during the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anh. That is when he gathered everyone. And the hikmah behind that was that because everyone was praying on their own, there were some people who might have been lazy, some who are praying little, some who are praying a lot. So Umar radiallahu ta'ala anh, he felt like that part of hikmah, and to keep everyone united, let's bring everyone to the masjid. Now subhanAllah, no one, even though this is something that Umar radiallahu ta'ala anh started, no one from amongst the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum, the Kibar Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum, no one objected to this action of Umar al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anh. And it was at that time that Umar radiallahu ta'ala anh, he institutionalized the concept of 20 rak'ahs. That from now on we will pray 20 rak'ahs of Taraweeh, and at that time it was institutionalized. Not only that, but this continued during the time of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anh, Ali radiallahu ta'ala anh, even after that, when the Sahaba, they dispersed to other places, they would continue to pray 20 rak'ah, and they continue this. So once again, going back to what we were talking about, that fasting begins at the time of Fajr. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in ayah number 187, He very clearly says that, He says, أُحِلَّ لَكُمْ لَيْلَةَ الصِّيَامِ الرَّفَثُ إِلَى نِسَائِكُمْ هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُنَّ علم الله أنكم كنتم تختانون أنفسكم فتاب عليكم وعفى عنكم فالآن باشروهن وابتغوا ما كتب الله لكم وكلوا واشربوا, eat and drink, حتى يتبين لكم الخيط الأبيض من الخيط الأسود من الفجر. Now, if you study the history of Salat and the fiqh of Salat, the timing of Fajr begins at the white twilight. When the white twilight comes into the sky, that is when Fajr starts. That's why if you study the skies, and you will see that there are two types of Fajr that come in. One is Fajr Sadiq and one is Fajr Kadhib. Fajr Sadiq or Fajr Kadhib is the one that comes in earlier, where there's a white twilight that comes into the sky, but it disappears very quickly. There's a second twilight that comes into the sky, which then remains in place. That's why during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there were two adhans for Fajr. There was one adhan that was given by Bilal radiallahu ta'ala an at the time of Fajr Kadhib, and then there was one given by Abdullah ibn Maktum radiallahu ta'ala an at the second Fajr, which was Fajr Sadiq. Until today, if you go to Mecca and you go to Medina, there are two adhans for Fajr. There's one adhan that takes place, and everyone commences and everyone begins with their Qiyamul Layl or their Salat al-Tahajjud, and then there is a second adhan for Fajr. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that you can continue to eat and drink and do whatever it is that is not allowed during the times of fasting until that white twilight appears in the sky. As soon as the white twilight appears in the sky, then after that, then that is the time when Fajr comes in, and that is when your fasting begins. So, what is the objective of Ramadan? What are we possibly supposed to get from Ramadan? There are three things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wants us to receive from the month of Ramadan. First of all is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also tells us that while these three things are the objectives of Ramadan, it is not necessarily true that you will fulfill or you will be able to achieve these objectives of Ramadan. Why? Because with every single one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, لَعَلَّكُمْ or لَعَلَّهُمْ, which means perhaps you may. For example, Allah says in the Quran, in ayah number 183, when He talks about fasting has been ordained upon you. At the very end of the ayah, Allah says the purpose of fasting is لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. That the purpose is taqwa, but it is not a guarantee that you will receive taqwa. If you fast the way you're supposed to fast, you fulfill the objectives of fasting, you fulfill the rights of fasting, and you are dedicated and you are focused during the day, and it's just not a hunger strike that you are going through, then inshallah you will attain taqwa. That's the first thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us. Number two, Allah tells us is that in the ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He talks about Ramadan. He says, وَلِتُكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةِ وَلِتُكَبِّرُوا اللَّهَ عَلَى مَا هَدَاكُمْ وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you 30 days. He says, what does He want from you for 30 days? You dedicate yourself. What are you supposed to do to 30 days? وَلِتُكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةِ. Hopefully you will finish the time. Finish the days of Ramadan. وَلِتُكَبِّرُوا اللَّهِ. And then you will glorify Allah. Now, when Ramadan comes to an end, we finish the time, what do we do the next day? We glorify Allah, right? We say, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. So Allah is saying over here, وَلِتُكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةِ, number one. وَلِتُكَبِّرُوا اللَّهِ. And then you glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of Eid. And all this was for what? What are you supposed to achieve from this? وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. So that you are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thankful for what? For giving us another opportunity to make our akhirah. For giving us an opportunity to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For giving us an opportunity to build a meaningful relationship with the Quran. That is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wants from all of us. The third thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do in Ramadan is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِي فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah wants us to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Think about it. When you hear the ayah, Ujibu, I respond. Da'wa, the call. Da'wa ad-da'i, the call of the caller. Idha da'ani, when he calls me. There's dua, dua, dua. What is the idea? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, make dua in the month of Ramadan. Make dua for yourself, make dua for your family, make dua for the welfare of the Muslims, make dua for the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, make dua for your dunya, make dua for your akhirah, make dua for your children, make dua for everything. Make dua for everything. The month of Ramadan is a month of taqwa. The month of Ramadan is a month of the Quran. The month of Ramadan is a month in order for us to understand what gratitude is and what shukr is. And finally, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wants us to make a lot of dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let's talk about the basic fiqh of Ramadan now. First of all, suhoor. Now, when we talk about suhoor, there is you will see that when it comes to the matters of suhoor, first thing is, there are people who believe that you have to stop, meaning that you have to perform imsak. You have to stop eating and drinking 10 minutes prior to the time of Fajr. There is nothing found in the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Number one. Number two is, as you approach Ramadan, you will see two different calendars. You will see some calendars where Salat al-Fajr begins around like a 4:37. You will see some calendars that will say that Salat al-Fajr begins at 4:56, roughly. Now you'll be confused. Which one is right? Which one is wrong? There are two different opinions. One opinion is that Salat al-Fajr begins when the sun is 18 degrees below the horizon. That is when Fajr starts. The second opinion is that Fajr begins when the sun is 15 degrees below the horizon. And once again, the horizon is what? When you look at, if you were to face a sea, the line that you see, that is called the horizon. When you see the sun coming and being manifest, is coming from behind the horizon. Now, what happens is that for the 18-degree methodology, according to the 18-degree methodology, Fajr starts 20 minutes earlier. According to the 15-degree methodology, Fajr starts 20 minutes later. Now, which one is right, which one is wrong? There are many ulama who believe that the 18-degree methodology is the more accurate and the more sound opinion, meaning that there are more ulama who believe in this. However, there are some other ulama who believe that it is 15 degrees when Fajr begins. Now, I'll tell you what we're doing on our epic calendar. In the past years, we have noticed that in our epic calendar, Fajr was at 18 degrees and Isha was at 15 degrees. That means that if you're talking about Isha at 15 degrees, Isha starts earlier. So if you are following the 15 degree methodology, then you might be praying around like at 10:10. If you are, or let's just say Salat al-Isha will probably start around like at 9:56. I think tomorrow Salat al-Isha might start at 9:56. I could be wrong. If Salat al-Isha starts at 9:56 according to the 15 degree methodology, according to the 18 degree methodology, Isha will begin 20 minutes later than that. Okay? Isha will begin 20 minutes later than that. Now, in our epic calendars, we always had Fajr at 18 degrees and Isha at 15 degrees. So Fajr 18, Isha 15. A lot of people in the community were asking that why don't we just make both of them one? Either make Fajr and Isha both 18 or make Fajr and Isha both 15. So what we did this year is that we made Fajr and Isha both at 15 degrees. We made Isha and Fajr both at 15 degrees. So if you see the epic calendar and you see that the Fajr is coming in 20 minutes later, that's because it is according to the 15 degree methodology. If you wish to follow the 18 degree methodology, that is totally your choice and that is your opinion, and you can do that. There is no one who is forcing you to take either opinion. It is absolutely your choice to do what you want to do. There are some people who prefer either one, and that's absolutely fine. I don't think that in our community or any community they should make this into such a big deal. We already have so many problems in the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We don't need to make this into another problem within our ummah. Now, who is exempt from fasting? I don't have any text over here. I only have pictures over here, so you can figure this out. You can figure this out. Who's exempted? A child. Okay. A sweet, look at that cute child. Okay. Sick person, right? That means that if you are sick and you feel like, now once again, you have to talk to your physician, you have to talk to your doctor. If he tells you that your illness can worsen during the daytime, then you should then stay away from fasting. But then I will say this, if you are exempt from fasting, you should not be walking around in the house just eating or munching on something. If you want to eat something in the corner away from everyone else, that is what we learn from the ulama, that they say that this is for a person who is exempt from fasting. The elderly. The traveler. What is this? Diabetic. People who are diabetic, they just cannot fast. So for them, they have to pay a fidya because they just cannot fast. If a person can fast, and we will talk about this later on when we talk about qada and kafara, that if you are a person that you just cannot fast, whether it's Ramadan or after Ramadan, such as a diabetic person, then you will pay a fidya. If you are a sick person, and right now you're sick, but you'll feel better later on, then in that situation, what happens is that you will be exempted from fasting at that time, but later on you will have to make it up. You will not pay a fidya to get away with it. Excuse me? I can't understand. Oh, 2 types of diabetic people? Yes, once again, there are people that, who have come to me. I've come across 2 types of diabetic people. Some who said that I can fast and I want to fast. And so that's absolutely fine. At the same time, I've come across some type of diabetic people who said that I just cannot fast during the daytime because if I don't have anything to take in, then I will probably collapse during the daytime. So in that kind of situation. Oh, that doesn't matter. It's not like type 1, you're exempted, type 2, you're not. It's not anything like that. It's just, you have to look at your own situation. You look at your own personal situation. If you are such a diabetic person that you can get through the day of fasting, then fast then. And if you cannot, then you cannot. Yes? Anytime you have a health hazard, anytime there is a sickness matter or anything that is concerning health, once again, first of all, contact your physician and ask them. If your physician is not a Muslim, I would say in this particular matter, or you can consult with him too, but you have to look at your own situation. If you can get through the fasting, then get through the fasting. There's so much reward for fasting. And if you cannot, then you just cannot. Then you will exempt yourself at that time. If you can fast, then you'll do the qada later on. If you cannot, then you will just pay a fidya then. Yes.
Instead of paying fidya, can you also feed
Can you what?
feed like fasting people?
No, you cannot. The fidya cannot be done in the form of feeding fasting people. You have to give it to people who are considered as either fuqara or masakin, people who come under the label or the umbrella of fuqara and masakin. And expecting mothers. Once again, even for expecting mothers, there are some expecting mothers, that they are in the beginning of their of that process. So, sometimes they fast, and then sometimes sisters, they know their situations very well that they cannot fast. If you know this, you know this. If you don't know this, don't worry about it. Okay. What breaks the fast? Any of these things will break the fast. So eating, drinking, even people who take medication, there's no type of medication that is allowed during fasting. Smoking during fasting is not allowed. Intimacy is not allowed of any type. So these are things that are very very, very common. So let's talk about qada and kafara. Quickly, qada and kafara. Qada is making up only one day for each missed fast. Now remember, if you fast, like for example, you're fasting on Monday and Thursday, and you broke your fast deliberately, okay? You broke your fast deliberately. Then in that situation, there's only a qada. That means you have to make up only one day for it. Imam Abu Hanifa is a little strict about the matter. He says that if anyone is fasting, like on a Monday or Thursday or Ashura or the 3 white days, then in that situation, if they break their fast deliberately, they don't have to make it up. This is what Imam Shafi'i, Imam Malik, Imam Ahmad Hanbal, this is what they believe in. Imam Abu Hanifa says that once you have started a fast, then you should complete it. And if you, for whatever reason it is, you break it during the daytime, you should do a qada later on for it. So there's a slight difference of opinion in that matter. The next one is kafara. Kafara is 3 things. Either you free a slave, which is not possible. Number 2 is fast for 60 days consecutively. Or number 3 is you feed 60 people. Now, in this particular matter, I want to make one thing clear because there is a slight difference of opinion in this matter. According to Imam Abu Hanifa, if you break your fast deliberately for any reason, you have to go in this sequential order. That means that if you cannot free a slave, you go to the next thing, which is you have to fast for 60 days consecutively. That means that if you eat deliberately to break your fast, in order to make up that fast, you will have to fast 60 days consecutively. That means that if you miss one day in the middle of that, you have to restart your 60 days. Likewise, if any person is intimate with their spouse, same thing. Imam Shafi'i rahmatullahi alayhi is slightly different on this matter. He says that the only time that you have to fast for 60 days consecutively is only when a person is intimate with their spouse. Only when a person is intimate with their spouse. Other than that, the kafara that is given is you'll feed 60 people. So Imam Abu Hanifa is a little strict upon the matter of kafara, whereas Imam Shafi'i rahmatullahi alayhi and the other scholars, they're a little more flexible upon this matter. They said that you don't have to fast 60 days consecutively unless you broke your fast because of intimacy. If you broke your fast, according to Imam Shafi rahmatullahi alayh, because of deliberately eating or drinking, you don't have to fast 60 days, but you will just feed 60 people. Now, what are some of the things that you do that if you were to do, then you just keep on fasting? These things will not break your fast. Once again, these are pictures. You figure it out. Huh? Giving blood, drawing blood. It will not break your fast. Yes, some people, for some people, when they get their blood drawn, they might feel some wooziness, some dizziness, some weakness. If you know it's going to really affect your fasting, then try to do it at some other time. Taking a shower. Once again, in taking a shower, you have to be very careful about it. Make sure when you're gargling your mouth, you don't gargle too much that something goes down your throat. Eardrops, they won't break your fast. An asthma inhaler, it will not break your fast. According to the Jamhurul Ulama, according to the more correct opinion. There are some conservative ulama who say yes, that it will break you, but according to majority of the ulama, the Jamhurul Ulama, it will not break your fast. Eye drops, it will not break your fast. What is this? Huh? Eating by mistake, drinking by mistake. Oops, it will never happen again. Hopefully it will never happen again. Applying moisturizer, Vaseline, that will not break your fast. Even if, and the reason I chose this picture, I could have just chosen a simple picture because it has like aloe fresh, coconut radiant. So even if there's something that has like some flavor to it, it will not break your fast. Because one brother came to me and said like, well, you can smell it, okay? I said, no one puts Vaseline, no one does that. Now, an insulin. Now remember, the thing is that if there is an injection, if you go to the doctor. Now, once again, if they give you a shot, for whatever reason it is, it might be a vaccine, it will not break your fast. But once again, if you are going and whatever you're taking in, it is considered as glucose and it will go to your stomach, then that will break your fast. So you have to be very careful about that. What is this? Colognes, perfume, it will not break your fast, even if it has alcohol in it. Okay, so we'll go ahead and stop right here, inshallah, because it's a little late. But inshallah, these are the next things that, some of the things that we need to do in Ramadan. And then we'll talk about some of the distractions in Ramadan, that what things are we not supposed to do, we're not supposed to do during Ramadan, inshallah. We'll cover that later on. Is there any questions regarding today so far? Yes. No. It only applies to Fajr and Isha. That's it. This debate or this difference of opinion only applies to Fajr and Isha. Once again, in Fajr, if you follow the 18-degree methodology, Fajr starts earlier. The 15-degree methodology, Fajr starts a little later. When it comes to Isha, if you follow the 15-degree methodology, Isha comes in earlier. And if you follow the 18-degree methodology in Isha, that means that the sun has set. It is 18 degrees below the horizon. That is when Isha starts, meaning that it takes time for Isha to start. Isha will start much later. So it does not apply to Maghrib. Maghrib is Maghrib. It's simple. There's only one sunset. Asr is, Mithlain. That's a different opinion amongst the ulama. But here it has nothing to do with our fasting. That's why I did not bring it up. Yes.
Is there a difference between, in the makeup hukum, is there a difference between missing a whole day of fard fasting as opposed to starting a fard fast and then breaking it, like in terms of makeup?
Can you ask a question? I'm sorry, I didn't answer.
Or like a Ramadan fast, if I just don't fast at all, as opposed to starting the fast and then breaking it.
It's the same thing. If you chose just not to fast, then you will have to make a kafara, because you just have absolutely no reason to not fast.
That would be the 60 days.
Yes, and because then you go in sequential order. Yeah. Yes. Accidental bleeding? No, that will not break your fast. Yeah, that will not break your fast. Even though, the blood might go down, but you know, it will not break your fast. I mean, we talked about this amongst the ulama. It will not break your fast. Yeah, even if it's blood that may go down, it will not break. Yes.
Students during the exam time, they
Yeah.
fast. How do we address that? How do you recommend they compensate for that?
See, you know, this year it still might be a little more easier. I know that there are some students who called me. They're going through their bar exam or they're going through some other medical exams, and they were telling me that they cannot concentrate if they've been hungry for a very long time. Now, once again, I did some digging on this matter, and nowhere did I find an exemption for students. There's just no exemption that can be made for students. I mean, you know, this year still, you know, for college students still it might be okay this year, but in the next 2 or 3 years, it's going to be very difficult for them too, because Ramadan is not going to come in May, and all their finals are taking place in May. So it's going to get difficult, but there's absolutely I don't see anywhere any fatwa where students are exempt from fasting.
So if they break fast, let's say for 10 days, what actual case I'm asking, that's the reason I'm asking.
I mean, if they break their fast, I mean, once again, I don't like to say this, but you know, I was having this talk with another imam recently, and I believe that according to Imam Abu Hanifa, if you break your fast, and I have to go back and look at this, but this was Imam Arsalan from the Masjid. He sent me a snapshot from a book. It was in Arabic about the fiqh of Ramadan, and in there it showed that the Jamhur ulama, they say that for every single day that you broke your fast, there is a kafara for that. However, at the same time, if you look at Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi, here in this case, the Jamhur ulama are Imam Shafi'i, Imam Malik, and Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. They say that you will have to do a kafara, but at the same time, their kafara is little light. Feeding 60 people is still somewhat manageable comparing to fasting 60 days consecutively. Imam Abu Hanifa says that, you know, there's only one kafara. There's one kafara for each day. But once again, you know, according to him, it's a little more harsh. Now, in this kind of situation, I mean, I could easily see people. I mean, if I know that people have not fasted, I can easily see people taking the opinion of Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi in this case. You know, for each day, yeah. And in the case of Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi, is each day that you missed out, you will feed only 60 people. So that means that if you missed out 10 days, then you feed 600 people, basically. So that's just the opinion of Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi. Yes. So going back to your first question was nasal drops. Yes, this is something that I should have put in there. Nasal drops is something that you should try to stay away from as much as you can, because, of course, I mean, you're a physician. You know this, that the passage is the same. You know, most of the time when you put any nasal drops, it will go down your throat. So you try to stay away from that. The thing is that, I mean, I'm not in this position to say anything to you because you are a physician, but majority of the ulama, they agree that the passage from the nose to the mouth and down the throat is more open compared to the passage from the eyes to the nose. So that's why majority of the ulama say that if you put some eardrops in your eye drops, there will not be a problem with that. If you say that Imam Shafi rahmatullahi alayhi, this is opinion, I'll have to go back and look at that, but I don't remember that, honestly. Suppository, Wallahu alam, I've seen both opinions on this matter. I've seen, because some people, they say that if it's considered as a haraj, not haraj, but is considered as darura, like you have to do it, then you just have to do it then. And some of the ulama say that, well, if you do it, then just make a qada for it later on. So that's what I've seen. Excuse me? Oh yeah, that's not allowed. I said that. That's not allowed. Yeah, that's not allowed. Yeah, that's not allowed. What was your other question about people who work in? Yeah, see, the thing is that in America it's more difficult because overseas in all of our Islamic countries, when Ramadan starts, working starts later on. There's a lot of concessions when it comes to working in Ramadan overseas. People, they take things very easily overseas. However, in America, life goes on as normal. Everyone still has to go to work. Everyone has to still meet their deadlines. Nothing changes in their work schedule. But yet they're fasting. Still, there's no kind of concession that I've come across, or rukhsa that I've come across as a fatwa, that even if you're working as a tough job, that you are exempt from fasting. You had people who are in our community, people who were football players like Hussein Abdullah and Hamza Abdullah and so forth. They were playing football during the month of Ramadan too. They were going through OTAs, which is organized team activities. They were going through these during the month of Ramadan. But what they would do is that they would structure their diet in such a way that they were fueled for the entire day. So for any person who's working in a very tiring job or tough or physical job, they have to, their suhoor has to be thought out and it has to be planned out very wisely in order for them to be fueled for the rest of the day. That means that a high intake of protein, a high intake of water, things that will not make you thirsty during the daytime. So they would do that to keep themselves going for the rest of the day. You got to do a lot of, if you're working like a physical job, you have to take, I'm not a doctor here, but I'm just saying that based on what I found out from them, you have to take in some extra protein to stay on your feet. See, yeah. See, I remember I went somewhere for Jum'ah one time, and it was Ramadan, and a sister, she just collapsed in the lobby area because it was hot. I think Ramadan was at that time like in July, August, sometime during the year, and a sister was in the lobby area after Salatul Jum'ah, and she just collapsed, and she because of dehydration. So in that kind of situation, what happens in that, what a person needs to know is that you need to talk to your management or talk to the boss in advance and see if they can make any concession for them in the month of Ramadan. And generally, if they're not really Islamophobic, if they're not really if they have like a soft spot in their heart for Islam and Muslims, then they usually give a concession. I've noticed that. They usually give a concession. They always tell them, okay, come in earlier or work later into the night, do something like that. But you have to make up the hours, but they will try to structure their schedule in such a way which is more favorable for them. So you have to do everything in your power, then you leave the rest in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what we learn from our deen too. You do everything in your power, leave the rest in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then inshallah Allah will make the way for you, Yes. If a person falls unconscious, then they're going to provide him some some glucose or something of that type. His fast will be broken because they're providing him some food, or even if they give him water. His fast is broken, but that's not considered as a fast that is broken intentionally. To make up for that fast, there's only qada, which is only one day. Well, you have to take something. If you're unconscious, you won't remain unconscious till iftar, and then give him something to drink. You have to give him something at that time. So you give him something, but once again, he or she is not doing this deliberately. It's a situation that they have come across, and Allah understands. Yeah. So for each fast, then it will be, once again, for each fast it will be, you have to do 60 days. Well, then you do 60 and then 60 later on and then another 60 later on. So it will not be 120 or 180 days consecutively. It will be 60 days and then later on another 60 days and then later on another 60 days. Okay. Brother Mustafa, you had a question? One last question. You're okay? Okay. خير إن شاء الله. جزاكم الله خير. سبحان الله وبحمده. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك. نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت. نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.